bringing you all the latest Nottoway County High School and Bearcat sports each week.
10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45.
Starring Erin Sorensen and Jon Dykstra on the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast.
He ran it back 109 yards. They're not going to keep him off the field.
Coming to you from the campus of Northwest Missouri State University.
Welcome to the first edition of the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast. I'm your co-host, Erin Sorensen.
And I'm your other co-host, Jon Dykstra. We're just going to bring you this podcast every week, in addition to the newspaper coverage the Maryville Forum already offers, give you another way to experience the area sports scene. We'd like to be bringing you this podcast under a little better circumstances this week, but unfortunately, our area high schools went 0-4 this week in football action. That started with the 8-man school. If we're being honest, they all had tough matchups this week. Northwest Nottoway fell to Stewartsville on the road. Platte Valley lost their home opener to a very tough Mound City team. And South Holt Nottoway Holt fell to last year's state champions Worth County on the road. But you can read about all those games. We had different reporters at all those games in the Maryville Forum this week and online right now.
One of the big interesting games this week, the Maryville Spoofhounds, they had definitely an interesting week. They traveled to William Jewell in the Kickoff Classic, a neutral site, where they fell 38-35 to Blair Oaks. And the big blow came from the 19-0 start. Jon, can you tell us a little bit about how that affected the Spoofhounds?
Yeah, they just came out and in high school football, especially when you played a team so late last year, you feel like you're going into the game, you kind of know what's going to happen. Blair Oak, new coach, new offensive system. They came out and ran an RPO scheme with first-team All-State quarterback Nolan Hare. Last year, you could have said he didn't look like an All-State quarterback in that semifinal win, where Spoofhound came out and got up 42-0 at halftime in the semis. It was a completely flipped script. They had the first 3 touchdowns of the game really quickly, and Maryville just found themselves in that hole. Had a hard time coming out of it.
Jon, can you tell us a little bit about, for those who don't know, what the RPO is and how that kind of worked for them?
Well, it relies on the quarterback just making those quick decisions, and he can either hand the ball off to his running back or he can run it himself, which you saw for those at the game. Hare, the first touchdown came on a 33-yard run by Hare, where he was making defenders miss all over the place, honestly. But as the game went on, he relied on that short passing game and finding his quick receivers. And for fans of the NFL out there, the Philadelphia Eagles ran the RPO, especially when Nick Foles took over as quarterback, and it really propelled them to the Super Bowl last year.
So it sounds like it's something that we don't see as often in this area, especially with high school sports. Do you know of any other teams around here that the Spoofhounds will face and see that kind of offense?
You really don't see it, especially to the level that they had. And that was something Coach Matt Webb talked about after the game. The precision that they had for never running it before. And they had, as I said, a new coach from Jefferson City High School. He came in. He was a new old coach because Ted LePage got his start at Blair Oaks before he went to Jefferson City. But with Hare, with receivers like Braden Pritchard, who was a first-team All-State receiver last year, they just had the weapons, and they had kids with experience that really just took off running the ball. And Hare isn't the fastest quarterback that the Spoofhounds have certainly seen, but as Webb compared him after the game to Diego Bernard, who Bearcat fans are going to know because he's going to be playing basketball here. But he mentioned that he wasn't a Diego-type athlete, but it's just in that system, it's so hard to stop when they have so many options of what to do with the ball.
And they had just really, like you said, just a dominant start, probably something that will catch a lot of teams off guard right from the get-go with that RPO offense. But the Spoofhounds did manage to battle back with a score of 21-19 just after half, I believe. Can you tell us kind of what got the Spoofhounds back in the game and how that ended up playing out for them?
It was finally got Eli Dallas on the outside, and that's for Maryville. Last year, once he started playing about week 9, he started getting a lot of carries, and obviously finished the year well to become a first-team All-State running back, starting the year 2 weeks before the end of the regular season. And he went 85 yards for a touchdown to get them going a little bit. And then early in the second half, they were able to take the lead on a very strange play, really, with first-year starting safety Jason Bagley. He picked off. I think Hare was trying to throw the ball forward as he was getting sacked, and Bagley just swooped in, picked it up, and ran it back in for a touchdown.
And that's that RPO offense, even with that 21-19, that kind of comeback you call it for the Spoofhounds, that is kind of what just put the dagger in the Spoofhounds in the end.
In that regard, what we saw towards the end of the semifinal game last year, where he racked up 3 touchdowns in the second half in basically garbage time, so you didn't know how much to kind of weigh that, but he was certainly a problem on Friday night for Maryville.
Did you see any big-time players come out of that game at all, maybe for the Spoofhounds, or some good things that you saw that we can carry in as this season continues?
Well, it comes down to, again, the defense. Even though they did give up 19 points after that 19-0 start, they settled in, and it was a lot better late in the game, and I think that they will be okay. It was honestly just an awesome offensive performance, and sometimes you can't just stop that when you dig yourself that hole to begin with. No matter how well you play later, it's hard to come back from. And their running game was working, not to the degree that many have just come to expect it to work. Tyler Houchin and Dallas, they're going to be fine as the year goes on. One bright spot, though, and this leads me into a recurring segment for us that's going to be on the podcast. My athlete of the week for this week goes to an unexpected source with the kicker/punter Nick Gardner. Nick had a good year last year coming in and replacing Jacob Reuter, who was hurt last year. And then to finish the year, he finished the year as their kicker and helped them to the state title, obviously. And also their punter, where Mark Zahn was also hurt last year. And he had a major punt where he flipped field position, kicked it, actually coffin cornered it out at the 3-yard line. That set up the second touchdown of the game for Maryville and really gave them a spark. And he was also 5 for 5 on extra points, which if you're an NFL fan or a college fan, you kind of overlook that. But in high school, if you have a guy who can just get that point after through, that's a big deal. And Nick made them all, so that's a positive sign. But I know you have an athlete of the week also this week, Erin, and that takes us to the volleyball court.
Yes, it does. It was a great weekend for Bearcat Volleyball, kind of one of our more positive weekends that we got to see for our coverage area. And Northwest Volleyball went to the Washburn Invitational. They went 4-0 kick off the season with 4 wins. And not only did they go 4-0, they didn't drop a set. So they sweeped every team they played, which brings me to my athlete of the week, like John said, which is Maddie Bruder. And if you're a Bearcat Volleyball fan, that's probably no surprise to you at all. Notching in kills as always. She had 10 kills, 3 aces, and she's been solid for the Bearcats this whole time. She also notched 1,000 career digs, which came after 1,000 career kills that she had last season. So she's really been very steady and very reliable for this team. A big hitter. She's a captain, so she's quite a leader for the team as well. We saw some other good players here with Bearcat Volleyball, just really an all-around team effort. Another senior, Sophia Schleppenbach, she came in with quite a few kills. And the really positive thing that I see from Northwest Volleyball is a lot of girls are getting involved. Young girls, seniors, juniors, sophomores. We saw Hallie Sidney come in. Bethany Elkins, who didn't even play last year, she came in and played big time. They saw some good teams, and they managed to hit 375 with their percentage, and it was just a big game and a big week for the Bearcats and for Maddie Bruder, like I said, as my athlete of the week this week. That
brings us to another Bearcat team getting their start this week, where volleyball got going Friday and Saturday in Topeka, like you said. The football team gets to start at home, and they have Missouri Western coming up.
And it is, and I think a lot of people are going to come out to this game. Obviously, there's kind of that rivalry that's been built up. It's going to be a great game. I think a lot of fans are going to come out. A lot of interest interesting things actually came out from the green and white game that the Bearcats had, the scrimmage. Coach Rich Wright, quite a few announcements to make. So now we kind of have a vision of who we're going to see playing for the Bearcats. And one of the big announcements, Coach Rich Wright named a starting quarterback, and that's going to be redshirt freshman Braden Wright out of Elkhorn, Nebraska. He won a couple of state championships while in high school. He's an all-state player, two-time all-area, all-district conference player, just a really solid kid. Jon, I think you've got some more announcements that Coach Rich Wright brought to us as far as who we're going to be seeing on the field.
First of all, on Wright, Coach Wright said Brandon just gives them that athleticism that maybe they lacked a little bit last year with Zach Martin starting the whole season, having a good season, but as more of a traditional pocket passer. And now they can kind of return to having that athletic playmaker at quarterback. He said he realizes with a freshman that he's going to have some mistakes. He really thinks this kid has it and can be that kind of leader that the Bearcats need on offense this season. And like you said, Rich joked after the game that he had more announcements for us after this scrimmage than he had all last year, because he also announced that true freshman LaTroy Harper, who many Spoofhound fans might be familiar with from basketball, and he also played football, and YouTube fans will be familiar with him because he had a couple crazy catches in the state title game 2 years ago for Hamilton. But LaTroy's not redshirting this year. He is going to be lining up and going to be playing for the Bearcats.
You've got that dominance with Sean Bain. Obviously, adding LaTroy Harper to that is incredible. As you spoke about YouTube fans, one of the catches that I saw from LaTroy Harper almost was an identical replica of Odell Beckham Jr., the one-handed reach-back catch. Does he really spread us out and add more just dynamic ability to us with Sean Bain and with LaTroy Harper?
I mean, he had some crazy catches, and that was one thing that Coach Wright mentioned way back at signing day when we first got LaTroy, is after that state title game where he had a catch for an Odell type catch, as you say, for a touchdown, but he also had one where he plucked it off his shoelaces and ran for a touchdown, and it was fairly incredible, honestly. But he has that pedigree as a receiver, but Hamilton being a smaller school, you got to put your best athletes where they're going to have the most impact. So he's actually played quarterback the last couple years there and kind of sacrificed for the team, maybe making more of a name for himself as a receiver, and has played quarterback. So to be able to transition back and be an impact player at the college level this fast is very impressive for him.
Yeah, and that's incredible, like you said, and I think a lot of people don't know that he did play some quarterback for his high school team, but I'm definitely excited to see him, especially like you said with Sean Bain out there. Definitely a dual threat. Now we've got another player that I know, Jon, you would love to talk about, and with a big week for him coming up.
Well, I don't like to bring up that I did graduate from Missouri Western, so please don't turn off the podcast right now. But another graduate of Missouri Western who has seen the light and has turned into a Bearcat is Josh Caldwell. And Josh, I mean, he was an All-American at Missouri Western. He was just a great back there, and with the coaching change and everything, it's a little uncertain how he left, but man, he is getting rave reviews from all of his teammates. And I mean, the opener, it can't be a better team for him than seeing his former team, Missouri Western, come into Bearcat Stadium. And I did ask Braden Wright about if it's kind of a win-one for Josh type mentality, and he pointed out that Josh is frankly too humble to ever bring that up to them. But they certainly realize where he played the first 3 years of his college ball, and I would look for plenty of opportunities for Josh to make an impact this weekend. But also in that scrimmage, it won't just be him, because they showed their depth at running back with guys like Isaiah Strayhorn and Raymond Thomas, and having that extra speed element. Erin, how how much you think that kind of helps them in the backfield to give that compliment to Caldwell, who certainly has the speed, but is more of a big, bruising running back, and having some Darren Sproles type running backs that can kind of go out and do it all. Is that exciting, do you think, for them?
Well, like you said, it's incredible that they do have the options that they have. And with Josh, like you said, kind of just being one of those guys where you can give him the ball and he'll put his head down and go through just about whatever he has to go through.
Yeah.
That's really exciting to see. And with Isaiah Strayhorn, like you said, and those other guys, I think a big topic here that we've got for Bearcat offense is speed. A lot of speed, a lot of quickness almost everywhere you look. And so it is good for guys like Josh and Isaiah. They can each get some carries in and there, and we can use those guys in times where we need to use them. Like Josh, like I said, the guy could probably run through a wall. He's 5'11", 220 pounds, just incredible. He rushed 856 yards in 8 games for Missouri Western. But it's definitely – Coach Wright's got a lot of options, and I think speed, like I said, is a big thing for the Bearcats. So, John,
that's going to be a challenge for them, honestly, too,
Yeah.
with first-year play caller Joel Osborne is taking over, and to find a way to get all those talented backs – because we didn't even mention Spoofhound legend, frankly, Brody McMahon. He was the leading rusher last year, and now he comes in, and it's almost like he's an afterthought in this backfield, but he had a great year last year, and he's certainly going to factor into it. And that's the biggest challenge for Coach Osborne. Like I said, just finding a way, guys like Strayhorn or Thomas. Maybe they line up a little bit slot. Maybe you see a lot of 2-back sets with all that talent they have back there. But it'll be interesting, the different things they can do with all these speedy options. And we didn't even mention Alec Tatum, who had 2 touchdowns in the scrimmage, looked great out there. He's a more traditional slot receiver, maybe than some of the others, but he certainly made an impact too. So the offense is not going to be devoid of playmakers this year.
And I know the Bearcats have never been short of hungry. They're always hungry to win and to improve, especially with Coach Wright. But like you said, with all these backs, and you're talking about all this talent, does that kind of add, do you think, to the hunger of these guys? Because they all respect each other, but they want to get out there and prove themselves and get that time, get those snaps.
I think what adds to the hunger of this team is 2 losses last season during the regular season and a first-round playoff exit. They are certainly out to, for normal teams, 2 losses, a second-place finish in the conference, and a playoff berth would be a banner year, but not for Northwest. And I certainly think they are hungry to kind of prove that was the outlier and not a sign of things to come. And with these offensive playmakers and that defense, which we lose guys every year, but every year seems like Rich gets those guys to be the top defense in all of college football. And this year is frankly no different, with returners such as Austin Eskew and Anthony Lane and Ben Altoff and Nick Hass, and it goes on and on. Jack Richards, Jacob Gassman, there's a lot of talent on that defense, and if the offense can capitalize on these playmakers, it could be a fun year.
And that's one of the incredible things is you could name off names of incredibly talented athletes on this team for a very long time. But they will get their first official start on Thursday against Missouri Western at 7. John, do you have anything else you want to kind of look into that game, or that you're thinking about that game, predictions or anything like that?
Well, Missouri Western, both by the media and coaches, was picked in the lower half of the league this year. Obviously, you should expect a Bearcat victory, especially with the home game and that extra motivation. But I just want to see how the offense clicks, because we talk about all this talent, but you got the new play caller, a new quarterback, a nearly entirely new group of running back. They've got to get that chemistry down, and that will be huge early. We talked about with the Spoofhounds going against a mobile quarterback like Nolan Hare, with a mobile quarterback like Braden Wright starting for the Bearcats. You'd think that maybe they implement a little bit of that more option scheme and And with that, timing is always key. So hopefully they're able to just get down that timing and maybe put on a little bit of a show this week for the Bearcat fans that are able to make it out for the season opener Thursday night at 7 at Bearcat Stadium.
That's what I think. I think it's going to be a great game. And like you said, really for them this is a good game at home for them to kind of figure out how everything does fit together for them. And it'll be interesting to see how Braden Wright really takes advantage of that position and kind of being that quarterback and leading this team.
Yeah, it certainly will be. But that's not the only big sporting event this week, honestly. We got a little preview with Friday and the high school football scene getting going, but and Saturday, we had Bearcat Volleyball, and we had some of our Class 1 volleyball teams playing. But this week, Monday, it kind of all begins with a lot of Spoofhound activities, a lot of Bearcat activities, and like I said, a lot of Class 1 school getting rolling. The Spoofhound golf team, who have a lot of high expectations going into this year, get going with a home match at Mazingo. I think that's going to be their best ball tournament, which they play all year each year to kind of mix it up a little bit from the traditional scoring. So that will get going. Spoofhound softball gets going Monday night as well. I believe that's at 5 o'clock against North Nottoway, another one of our local schools. So that's exciting. And volleyball's on the road, I think, for most of this week. I know they have East Buchanan on Tuesday, and they are down in Fawcett, but there's just a lot going on to start the week, or to start the season, really, at around high school sports and around, obviously, the Bearcats as well.
Yeah, it's going to be everything's picking up now, and this is where it's really fun for a lot of sports fans. And as you mentioned, volleyball for high school is kind of getting going, as well as volleyball for the Bearcats. They go on to the Rockhurst Classic on Friday and Saturday of this week. They'll play weekend tournament to kind of go out and show what they've got. They won't be home for another couple more weeks, but they've got these road tournaments as well. So big starts for everybody this week should get going. Next week on our podcast, we will cover all of those games and kind of talk about what we saw, obviously with Bearcat football and softball and those local area high school sports like you mentioned, John. And this has been our first edition of the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Erin Sorensen.
And I'm your other co-host, John Dykstra. And we look forward to bringing you this each week and hopefully give you another way to digest the local sports here.
Bringing you all the latest Nottoway County high school and Bearcat sports each week. Starring Erin Sorensen and John Dykstra on the Maryville Forum Sports Podcast. Coming to you from the campus of Northwest Missouri State University.